Namaste everybody and welcome to the Green Door Grooves yoga channel. How are you doing? Today I was walking in the woods this morning and I had a little intuition that I should talk today on intuition. So here we are. Intuition is something that we all experience in our lives at some point and very possibly since we were little. However, we on the whole don't give it too much weight, too much credence. We are taught throughout our lives to really listen and value those things that we can see and hear and taste and smell. So all the five senses, we learn how to relate to the world through those avenues, don't we? And the intuition, which is a sixth sense, has never been very highly regarded in our society. And in fact, it's very easy to just sort of, dismiss intuition. But we all know that we have had intuitions in our lives. There's classic intuitions like, knowing somebody's about to ring before they ring, walking in town, thinking of somebody you've not seen for eons, and then suddenly they're there, they pop up. Having a bad feeling about something, feeling that something might happen. Knowing if someone's not going to show up for a date or for a meeting. We all have those, but as I say, often we don't trust them. And the real problem with intuition, I think, is that we don't trust it. We don't trust it as being a valid sense, a valid way of being able to get information in the world. Now, it's interesting really because we put a lot of stock into sight and what we can see. However, we know, and science tells us that we can actually only see less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So what is actually out here in this experience we're in right now, we can only see 1% of it, of the visible light spectrum. Okay, that's nothing. It's actually less than 1%. That's nothing at all. So what that means is that our bodies are limited. Our sense organs are limited to what they experience. So there is much more than what we can perceive, which is crazy really when you think about it. Yet we put a lot of stock on our bodies, and this is where we come into the yoga teaching again and again and again of identifying with the body and placing more importance on the body than the spirit, the soul, the energetic components of our being, our matrix. However, again, it's only actually able to interpret a certain amount of information. So if through our eyes we can only see less than 1% of the visible spectrum, and less than that at that, if we can only see that, and by the way, it's not your eyes that see it either, and many of you will know this, but I don't think I realised until the last couple of years, it's not our eyes that see, it's the brain that sees. So it's our brain which is decoding all the information it gets given. So we have the organs of the eyes, we have the rods and cones and the lens, etc. But the actual information is sort of descrambled and projected out from the brain itself. So although we do have these wonderful brains, they are amazing, and the miracle of the human body is beyond anything that I understand. But the point is that there is still so much more. There is so much more. We are one little part of this amazing, complex, unified field. So, where does intuition come in? So if we are only able to see this tiny bit of information through the eyes, and if we are only able to hear a certain amount of information, because of course the ears don't pick up all the sounds that are, and we know that certain animals pick up different frequencies, like dogs pick up very high frequencies. Elephants, don't they hear very low frequencies through the walking and things like that? Dolphins, of course, they have their own frequencies. So we don't pick up on all of that through the ears either. So in summary, we could say that the senses that we have, and we know about, you know what you can taste and you know what you can smell, and they tend to be slightly more subtle. I would say that the seeing and the hearing are the main ways that we interpret and relate to the world, aren't they? And then the tasting and the smelling are sort of, they're complementary to that experience, unless it is, a piece of food you're not looking at. And then, of course, you've got feeling or sensation, touch. Touch can tell you quite a lot, can't it? But they're all aggregates. They all give you a bit of the picture, don't they? I see something, that gives me one part of the picture. I hear something, that will give me another part of the picture. I can feel it, another part. If it's something I can taste. And actually, you can taste anything, can't you? If you can stick your tongue on it if you want to. And then, you can smell it as well. So you get all these parts of information which goes towards us assessing, judging, viewing this object or scenario or cluster of objects or relationships or whatever it may be. So we've got all that information, but it's not everything. And you don't get the whole information about something by looking at it only, do you? You don't get the whole of the information about something just by tasting. You don't get everything from that. So when it comes to intuition, when you begin to tune in, tap into your intuition, which everybody has, the difference may be that some people are more actively using their intuition, therefore they are actively practicing their intuition, therefore they are probably a bit more intuitive. But we all have intuitions, we all have that capability. And as I say, if you reflect on it, you will probably remember many times that, you knew someone was going to ring before they did. You knew someone wasn't going to show up, even though they said they were definitely going to be there. You had a bad feeling about something. These are all intuitions. So, intuition has actually a very clear and concise quality to it. When you intuit something, although in some ways it is fleeting, and if you don't practice you will definitely miss it, but the feeling and the message tend to be quite concise. And if it was, if it was to be shown to you, then it would just be a simple drawing or a simple sentence. It doesn't do what the brain does, which is dance around your thoughts. Your thoughts, they sort of dance around things, and they really, go into lots of detail about things, and they bring in lots of strands, and they make it quite complicated. So, an example of an intuition, say someone had asked you to lend them some money, quite a big sum of money, okay? And immediately you felt in your gut, or I say felt in your gut because gut feeling is the same as intuition. I tend to think of intuition being more at the third eye and gut being more physical, if you like. And then there's meat in the heart center anyway. So someone had asked you, you said, You thought to yourself, or you had your intuition, which was, no, don't do it. Simple as that. And you might have even said no at the time, but then what happens is you go away and your mind, as I say, your mind starts saying, yes, but you should lend them the money because whatever. And you basically layer up lots of thoughts and lots of reasons and lots of backup for the reason that you should lend the money. However, there's still a feeling there. And if you tap into that feeling, you still feel it there. Feel like, oh, no, I shouldn't really. Then anyway, you do it. You decide, okay, I'll go with the head. Except it's probably not even that. You've convinced yourself because it's the louder voice. The louder voice is in your brain, as in your thoughts. So the louder voice has won. You've gone with it. You said, okay, yes, I'll lend you the money. And then a month later, that person comes back to you and says, I've lost all the money and there's no way I can pay it back. And at that moment, I knew it. I knew it. Shouldn't have done that. I knew it. My gut told me that. Shouldn't have done it. Yeah? So, sometimes the best way to learn about intuition is when something big happens to you. Something that you look back and go, oh my God, actually, I knew that they didn't seem very well that day. I knew that, I don't know, he was going to ask her to marry him. I don't know, whatever. So a good way of learning about it is by just checking into big things that have happened in your life and, actually, yeah, I did know that. So to come back to sort of active intuition or present, current intuition, if you want to develop your intuitive feelings, you have to learn to value the domain of imagery, dreams, pictures, and imagination. Again, all of these things in our society tend to have been pushed to the side, partly because they can't be properly explained. Dreams don't really know, we've got some ideas about it, bit of filing going on, but don't really know. Imagination, yeah, we know we imagine, we know it's a thing, we don't quite know how it works, and hasn't really got any value, has it? Now, we are beginning to know, in the last few years, these fantastic, modern scientists, plus all the people who practice yoga and holistic modalities, healings. They've known for a million years that all of these things are perfectly valid. Not to mention, of course, the ancients. But mainstream tell us that these are not valid modes. So when you start practicing, so say you do a guided meditation. Okay, so I've done a few of these on my channel, a few guided meditations where you go on a journey and you might meet somebody, a being who's going to have a chat with you and tell you something, maybe give you some information about yourself, or sometimes we do it when you find a box and there's something in the box. What tends to happen really commonly is that afterwards, if you have when I do a group, and afterwards if I say any feedback or what do people experience, largely people say, well, yes, I did, I opened the box and there was a bit of paper in the box and it did say, I don't know, be true to yourself. But, I think that's me, isn't it? That's my brain and that's me. I don't know, that's not something else coming in. That's not a guide. That's me. I've done that. Now, yes, that's true to a degree. And remember, there are thousands of perception points here. Yeah. That is true to a degree because there is nothing outside of ourselves. In the yogic model and in the quantum model, we are all in the unified field. We all have the information of the universe within us. God, consciousness, the divine field has created everything. So thereby, of course that is right. So in the end, we are our guides if we do have an experience of a guide. We are our higher self if we have an experience of the higher self. We are the deceased if we have an experience of the deceased. Those people who are, mediums. So in the broader picture, we are all of it. So when you say to me, that's just me making up my, little bit of paper in the box, then yes, on one level, that's true. You are doing that. But that part of you that is doing that has access to this greater field, this broader spectrum of information. So your intuition is able to reach beyond the confines and the limits of your senses to gather information which is difficult for you to get hold of in normal day-to-day mental thinking, if that makes sense. So again, I think it comes back to, we have to learn to value, the world of imagery, the world of archetypes, the world of dreams, the world of imagination. Now, the more time you spend with your imagination, so if you're an artist or a creative, you will naturally live in this kind of a world, and you may well be someone who's quite well, you have a good relationship with your intuition. Because many sensitive souls do have a natural relationship with their intuition. So one of the ways to develop this intuition, as I say, first of all, is to start to value it as a mode of gathering information, to start to learn to trust it, and then to really practice it, to listen to your feelings, to listen to your thoughts, to start to distinguish between the thoughts that are chatter and come from an emotional place, which is impacted often through our hormonal state. So if you're having a thought that has been triggered by, say, a little bit of cortisol, so say you're in a bit of anxiety, then that's a very mental thought. It will have an emotional reaction, but it is not necessarily seeing the whole picture. It's not seeing as clearly as you would if you hadn't had that emotional reaction. So emotions and feelings can be really useful, and we can play with them, particularly to manifest wonderful things in our lives. We can definitely use that energy around the emotions. But in terms of clarity and to really see things as they are, often we need to pull or strip back the emotions and come from a more neutral space. Which is why often you will get strong intuitions when you are meditating. Because in meditation, we are practicing the calming down of the vrittis or the thought patterns. And when we do that, when we start to calm those thought fluctuations down, then we get more space. And when we have more space, we start to flow and ease into the energetic space around us. We tend to meet up with it, if you like. we as human beings, whatever our frequency is and whatever we're focusing on, will be drawn to things, situations, people of a similar frequency. So if you in meditation start to release and quieten your thoughts, and often that's accompanied by a sense of peace and tranquility, an energetic space rather than a dense physical space, then naturally we will start to attract those similar frequencies which are a slightly higher vibration. And then we often are able to access information that otherwise may be difficult for us to access. So meditation is an extremely helpful practice if you want to heighten your intuition. So is being in nature. You just need to start to pay attention as well. Pay attention to what is around you. Pay attention to what is grabbing your attention. If you hear a song, for instance, pay attention to the lyric of the song. What's it saying? If you are, I don't know, in a bookshop, pay attention to where you seem to be drawn to. Pay attention to what your body is asking you to do in terms of food and drink. Yeah? Listen. Because again, it's an area where we think, oh, well, I can't eat that because it's not healthy, or I can't drink this because it's got, I don't know, it's milk, it's not oat milk. Start to listen to your body and see what that's saying. There are so many ways of picking up information when the mind starts to quieten down. So when we practice meditation, we usually do it sitting. If you can start to practice meditation in your waking normal life, again, you're going to have more luck with tapping into that intuition. And when I say practice meditation in your normal life, I don't mean walking around with your eyes closed and not talking to anyone. I just mean practicing becoming less reactive, more awareness. So try not, if you can, to get kind of bound up or tangled up in these thoughts that go round and round and round in circles. See if you can find ways of doing things that make you feel good, and they can engage your mind, but they don't get your mind tense, because as soon as your mind is tense, then again, it just doesn't help the intuitive sensing. So that's a little bit about intuition. Those are the main things that are coming to me right now, and I don't plan these chats. I'm just chatting away. So I'm sure there's a lot more I could say, but right now I think I'm going to sign off and say have a lovely day, whatever you're doing, whenever you're watching this. Please do subscribe if you would like to, leave any comments, and I'll see you again soon. And remember, practice tuning in. And also remember, number 2, remember, you have got intuition. You've got it, and you can use it. All right, namaste.